This can be a very sensitive topic because it's deeply personal, and there could be years of feelings that have been built up and locked in the storehouses of our hearts. And the death of a loved one doesn't just open the door and let it trickle out. It blows the roof off. What am I talking about? Disputes among siblings over inheritance. There was a survey conducted of 1,500 people involved in inheritance disputes. And did you know that 44% of all inheritance disputes involve siblings questioning the validity of the will? Today, we're diving into ways you can avoid conflicts with family members over inheritance, as well as strategies you can take to reach an agreement. I'm Lisa Kwasnick, a realtor in the Sacramento area, and I teach people who have inherited property how to navigate the complexities and maximize the value and confidently manage the transition of their inherited property. Inheritance disputes and family conflicts over property can have significant consequences. They can not only lead to costly legal battles, but they can also damage family relationships irreversibly. In that same survey, 1/3 of families involved in disputes stopped talking to each other. I have a family member that stopped talking to all of us a few years ago, so I know how painful it can be to go through that. I'll share tips I've learned to help you either avoid these disputes or how to navigate through them in the most peaceful way possible. Conflicts mostly occur when there's a misunderstanding between siblings over what their parent intended to distribute to them after their death. Hang tight, because I'll go over things you can do if you're in the middle of a conflict with family members over inheritance issues. But first, let's talk about what you can do to avoid them altogether. A preemptive measure a parent can take is to create a trust and a will. If you haven't already done this, consider sitting down with an estate planning attorney and go over the ways you'd like to distribute your estate. Then you may want to consider talking with your adult children about the issues of inheritance. If you have open and ongoing communication with your children, your wishes will be clear. You might start by talking about your desires should your health decline. Go over the different living options you would have should you need care. Which of these living options would you prefer? Which would your family prefer? And what's affordable for you? Now, when you discuss finances with your children, it's not necessary to disclose dollar amounts in every account you may have. Just a general discussion is fine, especially if this is the first time that you're talking with your children about these things. Also, if you would like a portion of your estate to be left to charities or to a person or people who are not your children, it's important to disclose this ahead of time. When children find out about other beneficiaries after the death of a parent, they tend to question the intent or even have feelings of anger or confusion. So if you'd like to leave a portion of your estate to your church or to your favorite charity, let your kids know this ahead of time. Before I go over strategies you can take if you're anticipating or in a family dispute with your siblings over property, let me tell you what the ancient Scandinavians would do. When one of their kings died, all of his treasures were put on a barge and set on fire. If his sons or daughters wanted any of those treasures as their own, they had to raid the fiery barge. So before you set any ships on fire, let's consider some effective strategies to minimize conflicts. One powerful option is hiring a professional mediator. A third-party mediator is neutral and trained in conflict resolution. Mediation is less expensive and often a less contentious alternative to litigation. The mediator facilitates conversations and negotiations, helping the parties reach an agreement. You typically all meet at the mediator's office or over Zoom, and the mediator will hear from each of the parties and guide you toward solutions under the law, steering you all toward an agreeable compromise, which you can then decide to sign in order to make it a binding agreement. Years ago, I hired a mediator to help with a family matter, and I can't tell you how helpful it was. The mediator was so skilled at checking all our emotions at the door, and she really guided us toward a compromise that was best. Another smart move is exploring a buyout or liquidation. If siblings jointly inherit property and are in disagreement, one sibling may buy out the other. But in situations where a sibling can't afford to do this because of the size of the estate, liquidating the property and dividing the proceeds might be the best solution. There's another video you can watch about ways to buy out your sibling, and I'll make sure to put the link to that video in the description below. I've also heard of family members having an auction for heirlooms and personal items. The family members bid on the things that they would like to keep. The highest bid wins, and the estate collects all the money, which is later distributed to the beneficiaries. Before doing this, and before you buy or sell any large assets of the estate, be sure to consult with an estate attorney and a tax professional so that you know any legal or tax implications. Another option to resolve conflict with your siblings is to seek counseling. Sometimes when there's an argument over certain possessions, it has more to do with harbored feelings from the past than money. There's a saying, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so spend twice the time listening than talking. When a sibling feels their perspective is respected and understood, it may free them up to move forward towards solutions. But if you decide to go this option in order to resolve issues about the inheritance, you don't want it to drag on and on. So decide ahead of time the number of times you'll meet with a counselor, and if there's no resolve, move on. If you've tried and failed to resolve inheritance issues with your siblings, a last resort solution is arbitration. Arbitration is a form of alternative dispute resolution that offers parties involved in a legal dispute an alternative to traditional courtroom litigation. It can be a costly solution, as most arbitrators are former judges, and it can be lengthy depending on the size or complexities of the estate. Speaking of lengthy, the longest estate settlement case in the U.S. history is that of Myra Clark Gaines in New Orleans. It lasted 55 years, and it is a fascinating case. If there isn't a movie already about her case, there should be. And if you decide to go read up on her and you agree with me that her story should be made into a movie, comment below with the name of the actress that you think should portray her. Let's get back to arbitration. In this situation, the parties typically have an opportunity to present their interests as they would in mediation. However, with arbitration, the parties agree ahead of time that whatever solution the arbitrator reaches regarding the dispute over the inheritance, they are bound to. It's been said money brings out the worst in people, and I don't think that's true at all. Money is just a tool we use to exchange goods and services. However, it's our attitude towards money that magnifies who we are. Thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them below. I take time to answer and reply. And if this was helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. As I said in the beginning of this video, I know this topic can be very sensitive and deeply emotional. So if you've inherited a property in the Sacramento area and you'd like to talk offline about solutions for your particular situation, I've got all the ways you can reach me in the description box below. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.